Commander Tail's shuttle glided through the planet's thin atmosphere, ice crystals sparkling on the viewports. The small craft shuddered as wind gusts battered its hull. Below, the research station stood alone on the frozen wasteland, a metal box with lights glowing against the endless white. "Final approach, Commander," the pilot said, hands moving across the controls. "Station Outpost 7 has cleared us for landing." Tail shifted uncomfortably in his seat. The environmental readout showed the external temperature, 72°C. Even inside the shuttle, kept at a barely tolerable 32°C for his Nexarian physiology, he felt chilled. His scaled skin longed for the comforting 50°C heat of his desert homeworld. Remember, his superior had told him before departure, humans are unusual. They survive in conditions that would kill most sentient species. Learn what you can. The shuttle touched down with a soft thud. Tail activated his thermal regulation suit, feeling the blessed warmth spread through the specialized fabric. The garment had cost the Galactic Survey Corps a small fortune to develop, a necessity for this diplomatic mission to the humans' frontier outpost. "Cycling airlock now," announced the shuttle AI. Tail stepped into the small chamber, feeling the pressure change as the outer door sealed behind him. His three-fingered hand checked the suit's control panel one last time. All systems optimal. The readout showed the suit maintaining his needed 45°C body temperature, despite the freezing air around him. The airlock's inner door slid open. 3 humans waited on the other side, wearing simple fabric coverings and thin outer shells. No visible thermal tech. No heated suits. Tail's thermal scanner confirmed they stood in air barely above freezing, yet appeared completely comfortable. "Commander Tail," said the central figure, a human with short black hair. "I'm Station Director Kim. Welcome to Outpost 7. The human extended a bare hand, a pink, 5-fingered appendage completely exposed to the cold air. Tail hesitated before extending his own gloved hand. The human ritual of shaking hands had been covered in his briefing, but seeing the exposed skin made him uneasy. How were they not freezing? "Thank you, Director Kim," Tail said, his translator converting his native clicks and whistles into human speech. "The Nexarian Council sends greetings and hopes for productive exchanges between our peoples." Director Kim smiled. "We're honored to host the first Nexarian visitor to a human outpost. Please come inside where it's more comfortable." "More comfortable?" Tail followed the humans through a series of corridors. If anything, the temperature seemed to be rising. His suit worked harder to maintain his thermal balance. They entered a room with a large table. Various humans sat or stood around, all wearing minimal clothing, despite the obvious lack of natural insulation on their bodies. "So no scales, no fur, just thin skin. Would you care for some tea to warm up after your journey?" Director Kim asked, gesturing to steaming containers on the table. Tail's translator paused, struggling with the concept. The word "warm" translated, but the context confused the device. Why would anyone want to increase their temperature in an already uncomfortable environment? "The liquid in those containers," Tail said carefully. "What temperature is it?" A human female picked up one of the containers and held it out. "It's about 90°C, perfect for green tea." Tail stepped back instinctively. "You put this in your body?" "Voluntarily." The humans exchanged looks. Then Director Kim laughed softly. "Of course, it feels good when you're cold." "But you're not cold," Tail said, his scientific curiosity overcoming diplomatic reserve. "Your station temperature is already too high for comfort." Another human spoke up. "The station is kept at 18°C, standard for human habitation." Tail checked his suit readings again. The humans maintained their living space at temperatures that would cause hypothermic shock in a Nexarian, and they willingly consumed nearly boiling liquids for pleasure. "I must decline the tea," Tail said finally. "But I appreciate the hospitality. Perhaps we could discuss the environmental differences between our species. I find your thermal adaptations fascinating." Director Kim nodded. "First contact is always about discovering differences. Come, let's sit and talk. I'm curious about your world too." As they settled around the table, Tail realized this mission would reveal more about these strange heat-enduring humans than anyone on the Nexarian Council had anticipated. The morning after his arrival, Tal followed Dr. Park. Through the research station's winding corridors, she walked quickly on her two legs, while he moved more carefully, his three-legged gait slowed by the heavy thermal regulation suit. "This is our research lab," said Dr. Park, pressing her palm against a scanner. The door slid open with a soft hiss. Inside, several humans worked at various stations. Some examined samples under devices Tal recognized as microscopes. Others typed on data terminals. All wore simple cloth coverings that left their arms exposed to the air. "We study the planet's ice microorganisms here," Dr. Park explained. She picked up a steaming mug from a nearby table and took a long sip. Tal's suit sensors immediately registered the liquid's temperature, 98 degrees C. He stepped back involuntarily. The human was putting nearly boiling liquid into her body cavity. His three eyes widened in their protective goggles. "Doesn't that hurt you?" Tal finally asked, unable to contain his scientific curiosity. Dr. Park lowered the mug and looked at him with surprise. "The tea. It's just right. I need something hot after working in the sample freezer." She pointed to a sealed door at the far end of the lab. "The freezer keeps samples at 120 degrees C. I spent 2 hours in there this morning. Tal's translator must be malfunctioning. No sentient being would voluntarily enter such a cold environment, then follow it by consuming scalding liquid." "May I scan you?" Tal asked, pointing to the medical device on his suit's arm. "For scientific understanding," Dr. Park nodded. Of course. The scanner revealed her core body temperature was 37 degrees, precisely maintained despite the varying external conditions she had experienced. "Fascinating." "Your species maintains internal heat," Tal observed, "like a walking furnace." Dr. Park smiled. "That's one way to put it. We're endotherms, warm-blooded. We generate our own heat through metabolism. Don't Nexarians do the same?" Tal's skin rippled in the negative gesture. "We absorb heat from our environment. Our world is naturally hot. We cool ourselves when necessary, but cannot generate heat internally." "That explains your reaction to the tea," Dr. Park said. "Would you like to see more of the station?" Throughout the day, Tal observed more puzzling human behaviors. In one room, humans sat around a circular vent in the floor that blew heated air. They seemed to enjoy this, extending their hands toward the rushing warmth. "Why do you do this?" Tal asked a human named Jin, who sat by the vent. "It feels good," Jin replied simply. "Comfort is important in a place like this, so far from home." Later, Tal witnessed humans wrapping themselves in layers of fabric before going outside. Dr. Park called these parkas and thermal gear, though they were much simpler than Tal's sophisticated suit. Most shocking was the recreation area, where humans immersed their entire bodies in a pool of water heated to 40 degrees. "You swim in hot water?" Tal asked, keeping his distance from the steaming pool. "It's a hot tub," explained Dr. Park. "Helps relax muscles after long shifts. Want to try? We could adjust the temperature down for you." Tal's skin rippled vigorously, in refusal. "I would cook like the food items I saw in your dining facility." That evening, in the privacy of his assigned quarters, cooled to a barely tolerable 35 degrees C, Tal recorded his observations. "Humans appear to seek heat in all forms," he dictated to his datapad. "They surround themselves with it, consume it, and immerse themselves in it. They wrap themselves in insulating materials not to keep heat out, as logical beings would, but to keep it in. Their bodies continuously generate heat through chemical processes, yet they supplement this with external heat sources. It defies all logic." He paused, considering the implications. "Most significantly, they manipulate their environment to create heat at will. Their mastery of fire and thermal energy may explain their rapid technological advancement. While the Nexarian collective waited for natural heat, humans created it. They bend their environment to their will rather than adapting to it." A chime at his door interrupted his recording. Dr. Park stood outside, holding something. "I thought you might like this," she said, offering a small device. "It's a cooling blanket. Some of us use them during summer on Earth. Might help you sleep better." Tal accepted the gift, surprised by the thoughtful gesture. "Thank you," he said. "Perhaps tomorrow you can explain more about how humans keep warm, as you call it." "I'd like that," Dr. Park replied. Cultural exchange works both ways. As she walked away, Tail realized he had much to learn about these strange, heat-seeking creatures. Tail woke to a sound he didn't recognize. A loud, repeating noise echoed through the research station. Red lights flashed in his quarters. He had been on the human outpost for 3 days now, documenting their strange, heat-seeking behaviors. The door to his room slid open. Dr. Park stood there, her face tight with worry. "Commander Tail, we have an emergency," she said. "Please come, quickly." He followed her into the corridor where humans rushed in all directions. Some carried tools. Others dragged large containers. Suddenly, a calm voice spoke from the ceiling. "Attention all personnel. Primary heating systems are offline, temperature dropping at 2 degrees per hour. Current station temperature 18 degrees Celsius. Emergency protocols activated." Dr. Park led Tail to the station's control center. Director Kim stood before a large screen showing the station's systems. Many sections glowed red. "What happened?" Tail asked. "Power coupling failure in the main reactor," Director Kim explained. "Backup systems should have engaged, but something damaged those too. Can you fix it?" "Engineer Lee and his team are trying, but we lost our connection to the orbital relay, so we can't call for help." Tail noticed the humans were adding layers of clothing. Some wrapped blankets around their shoulders. Their breath started to become visible in the air. "How long before the temperature becomes dangerous for humans?" Tail asked. Director Kim looked grim. "At this rate, we have maybe 12 hours before it gets life-threatening. The storm outside makes evacuation impossible." Tail felt something strange as the minutes passed. His discomfort was decreasing. The cooling station actually felt pleasant against his heat-sensitive skin. For the first time since arriving, he didn't feel overheated. 2 hours later, the station temperature had dropped to 14 degrees. Tail made a decision and removed his thermal suit's outer layer, leaving only the thin undersuit activated. Engineer Lee entered the control room, his face pale. Ice crystals had formed in his hair. "The main coupling is completely melted," he reported, his words coming slowly. "We need to rebuild it from spare parts." "Aren't you cold?" Tail asked, noticing how Lee shivered despite wearing 3 thick layers. Freezing," Lee admitted through chattering teeth. "How are you comfortable? It's getting dangerously cold." "This is pleasant for me," Tail replied. "On my world, this would be considered extremely cool weather, but not dangerous." Tail watched as Lee tried to type commands into a console. The human's fingers moved slowly, clumsily. Twice he missed the keys he was aiming for. "What's happening to you?" Tail asked, growing concerned. Lee slumped against the console. "Hypothermia beginning," he managed to say. "Humans need heat to live." Director Kim rushed to Lee's side. "His core temperature is dropping too fast. He was in the maintenance tunnels too long." The realization hit Tail like a physical force. While he felt increasingly comfortable, the humans were slowly dying. Their internal heat-generating systems couldn't keep up with the environmental cooling. "What can we do?" Tail asked. Dr. Park was rubbing Lee's hands between hers. "We need to restore heat or generate it somehow," Tail thought quickly. The humans couldn't survive in cold that was perfectly comfortable for Nexarians. Their strange relationship with heat wasn't just a preference, it was essential to their survival. "My thermal regulation suit," Tail said suddenly. "It's designed to cool a Nexarian in warm environments." Dr. Park looked up. "What are you suggesting?" "If we reverse the system, it could generate heat instead. It's powered by my ship's energy cells, which are still at full capacity. Would that work?" "Director," Kim asked. "The suit can maintain a 50-degree temperature difference," Tail explained. "It's meant to cool me down, but the technology can work in reverse." "But you need it," Dr. Park said. Tail's 3 eyes blinked in sequence, a Nexarian shrug. "This temperature is comfortable for me. I don't need cooling now." He began unfastening the suit's connections. "We can modify this to create a heating zone. It won't fix your systems, but it might keep your people alive until repairs are complete." As Engineer Lee's shivering worsened, Tail worked faster. For the first time, he understood that the humans' strange relationship with heat wasn't just a cultural oddity. It was the key to their existence. Without their constant battle against the cold, they would simply stop functioning. "Hurry!" Director Kim said, as Lee's eyes began to close. "We're running out of time." 6 hours into the crisis, the station, temperature had fallen to 5 degrees Celsius. The humans had gathered in the mess hall, the smallest room they could seal off completely. They sat close together, wrapped in every blanket and piece of clothing they could find. Tail's modified thermal suit now hung from the ceiling in the center of the room. Engineer Lee had helped reverse its function before his condition worsened. Now the suit pumped out heat instead of cooling, creating a small zone of warmth around it. "It's not enough," Director Kim said quietly. "The temperature is still dropping." Tail sat across from Dr. Park, watching with fascination and growing concern as the humans shivered and huddled together. This behavior, seeking each other's body heat, was completely foreign to Nexarians who typically avoided physical contact to prevent overheating. "Why do you produce your own heat?" Tail asked. "It seems so inefficient. My species simply absorbs heat from our environment." Dr. Park pulled her emergency blanket tighter around her shoulders. Despite her obvious discomfort, she maintained her scientific curiosity. "Our bodies constantly burn energy to maintain temperature," she explained, her words slightly slurred. "When we say 'I'm burning up' during exercise, it's literal. Our metabolism is like a controlled fire." "A fire inside you," Tail repeated, fascinated. "But why?" "Evolution," Dr. Park said. "Earth has many different climates. Being warm-blooded lets us live in cold regions, hunt at night, swim in cold water. It gives us endurance. We can outrun almost any animal over long distances because we don't overheat easily." Tail considered this. The concept was remarkable. These humans carried their ideal environment with them, creating a bubble of perfect temperature within their bodies regardless of external conditions. "So you're always fighting against thermodynamics," Tail said. "Always working to maintain heat." "Yes," Dr. Park nodded, her movements becoming slower. "Always burning, always hungry for fuel." Around them, several humans had fallen asleep, a dangerous sign, Tail had learned. Director Kim moved from person to person, gently shaking them awake. "How long can you survive like this?" Tail asked. "In these conditions, without proper shelter or heat?" Dr. Park's voice wavered. "Maybe another 6 hours. The cold will slow our metabolisms. Eventually, our organs will shut down." Tail's 3 eyes blinked rapidly as he processed this information. His perception of humans shifted fundamentally. He had thought them strange, illogical creatures with their obsession with heat. Now he understood they were engaged in a constant battle for survival, fighting the basic laws of physics with every breath. He looked at his data pad. The outside temperature was 75 degrees. His species could survive comfortably down to about 20 degrees before their own problems began. The station now hovered just above freezing. Dr. Park's head drooped, her eyes closing. "Dr. Park!" Tail touched her shoulder. She didn't respond. "Dr. Park!" Director Kim rushed over. "Her core temperature is dropping too fast. The blankets aren't enough." Tail made a decision that no Nexarian had ever made before. He reached for the controls of his thermal regulation undersuit, the thin layer he still wore. "What are you doing?" Director Kim asked. "My undersuit can generate more heat, but it needs to be in direct contact with a surface to transfer thermal energy efficiently," Tail explained. "I can reverse it like the outer layer, but—" He hesitated. What he was considering violated every cultural taboo of his species. Nexarians never shared body heat. It was dangerous, uncomfortable, and considered deeply inappropriate. But these humans would die without heat. Tail adjusted the settings on his undersuit to maximum heat production. Then he moved next to Dr. Park and carefully wrapped his 3 arms around her. "What are you doing?" Director Kim asked again, surprised. "Becoming a heater," Tail said simply. The suit began to warm rapidly. "Help me position myself. I can help. More of your people at once." Understanding dawned on Director Kim's face. He quickly arranged the unconscious and semi-conscious humans in a circle around Tail, placing their backs against the alien's warm suit. "This will drain my suit's power cells quickly," Tail warned. "But it might buy enough time for the repair team to fix the heating system." As the humans pressed against him, Tail felt deeply uncomfortable. Not physically, his suit regulated the temperature perfectly, but culturally. On his world, this intimate contact would be unthinkable, Yet as Dr. Park's shivering gradually subsided, he felt something unexpected: pride. These fragile creatures who carried fire within them needed his help, and he could provide it. "Engineer Lee just reported in," Director Kim said, checking his communicator. "They've found the problem. 2 more hours for repairs." "We will endure," Tile said, settling in as the living heart of the human huddle. "For 2 more hours I will burn for you." 1 month after the crisis at Outpost 7, Tile stood before the curved table where the 5 members of the Nexarian High Council sat. The Grand Chamber's temperature was set to a comfortable 55 degrees CC, and sunlight streamed through the tall windows, adding natural heat that pleased his skin. "Commander Tell," said Grand Minister Nex, her scaled skin glistening with ceremonial oils, "the Council has reviewed your findings on humans. Your report is most unusual." Tell stood straighter on his 3 legs. "I reported what I observed, Grand Minister." "You claim these humans saved your life," said Council Member Rez, his tone skeptical. "They did," Tell confirmed. "When the shuttle crashed during my departure, they risked their lives to pull me from the wreckage. In temperatures that should have killed them," noted Council Member Lax. "Yes," said Tale. "They wore protective suits, but even so, exposure to 75 degrees C should have been fatal within minutes. Yet they worked for nearly an hour to free me." Grand Minister Nex tapped her claws against the table. "And you believe their internal heat production is key to understanding them. Their relationship with heat changes everything," Tell explained, gaining confidence. "What we perceived as weakness, their need for warmth, is actually their strength. They evolved on a cold world by creating internal fire." He activated the holographic display in the center of the chamber. Images of humans running across varied landscapes appeared. "Humans can maintain activity for hours, even days," Tell continued. "Their bodies burn fuel constantly, not just when needed. This gives them remarkable endurance and adaptability." "But surely this constant energy use is inefficient," argued Council Member Tech. "It is," agreed Tal, "but it allows them to function in environments where most species would become dormant. They never need to shut down or hibernate. They simply add more fuel, food, and continue." He changed the display to show human cities across Earth's varied climates. Their technological development was driven by their need to create heat. Fire led to cooking, which led to metallurgy, which led to engines and electronics. Each step was about controlling their environment's temperature. The council members whispered among themselves. Finally, Grand Minister Nex spoke again. "Your recommendation," Tile took a breath. "We should establish deeper relations with humans immediately. Their perspective is completely different from ours. They see challenges where we see impossibilities. They push forward where we would conserve energy. There is much we can learn from each other." 3 cycles later, Tael watched from the observation deck as the first official human delegation arrived at the Nexarian capital city. The diplomatic ship had been specially modified with cooling systems to make it comfortable for the human visitors. The Nexarian High Command had completely reversed their assessment of human capabilities. Initial reports had classified humans as fragile beings who required constant environmental support. Now they were recognized as persistent, enduring creatures whose very biology made them suited for exploration and expansion. "A species that constantly burns will never stop," Tile had written in his final report. "Their endurance, their drive, their technological advancement all stem from this fundamental need to generate heat." 6 months after his first encounter with humans, Tal found himself on Earth. The Nexarian embassy in Seoul had been established with special heating systems for the Nexarian staff and cooling systems for their human hosts. Tal sat across from Dr. Park in a small cafe near the embassy. Outside, snow fell gently, covering the streets in white. Inside, humans sat comfortably in light clothing, while Tal wore his thermal regulation suit set to maximum. "I never properly thanked you," Tal said, "for saving my life after the shuttle crash." Dr. Park smiled. "You saved all of us first when you became our heater during the station crisis. We just returned the favor." A server placed 2 cups on the table. One contained cooled juice for Tal, the other steamed with hot tea. Tal looked at the steaming cup. He had made a decision before this meeting. With slow, deliberate movements, he reached for the hot tea instead of his juice. Dr. Park's eyes widened. "Tail, you don't have to—" "My suit has been modified," he explained. "It includes controlled taste sensors and temperature regulators." With ceremonial deliberation, he raised the cup of steaming tea to his mouth shields. The suit would cool the liquid before it reached his sensitive mouth tissues. "To understanding our differences," he said, taking a small, carefully regulated sip of what would normally be scalding liquid. Dr. Park raised her cup in return. "And celebrating them." As they sat there, one creature evolved for heat, one for cold. Tyle reflected on how much had changed. Two species from opposite ends of the thermal spectrum had found common ground. The universe suddenly seemed full of new possibilities. Outside, the snow continued to fall on a world that humans had conquered, not despite their need for heat, but because of it. Their internal fire had taken them to the stars, and now it had brought them new allies who marveled at their burning hearts.